What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with your NFL Week 16 Best Bets Christmas edition, which means I'm not just going to give you 5 spread picks. I'm not just going to give you 6 spread picks, but your Christmas present from me is 7 picks for you to choose from and enjoy your Christmas weekend this weekend with the NFL, and hopefully I can help you make some extra money. If you do want to make some extra money, I suggest you head over to my Patreon, link in the description, where I give you my bets that I'm actually betting on every single week with my real money. Check that out. Just $5 a month gets you all of my bets every week for the NFL. So check it out. Last week, we somehow survived a very tough week where I know a lot of people lost. Last week, we went 3-2 overall, and we are looking for a big Christmas week. So let's waste no more time and let's kick it off. But before I do, make sure that you do spike the like button, and don't forget to subscribe for weekly NFL best bets. Also, check out my other best bets, including my favorite over-unders and my parlays for week 16. Let's get rolling. Kicking it off with a Saturday football game, which would be Christmas. These games are happening on Christmas, and the night game is one that a lot of people are going to be tuned into, or at least have on in the background. And if you want to have a little action on the game, I would suggest the Indianapolis Colts as the side here. They are getting 1.5 points. Personally, I would just take the Colts to win the game on the money line, and that would be my way of playing it. I like the Colts and how they match up with the Cardinals. But first, I think it has to be said that the Colts right now are the better football team than the Arizona Cardinals. And I don't think it's particularly close when you look at both of these teams and how they are playing. The Colts are playing phenomenal football on really both sides of the football. They have a dominant rushing attack led by one of the MVP candidates in Jonathan Taylor, and their defense takes the ball away at a higher rate than any defense in the NFL. On top of that, they beat the Patriots, one of the hottest teams in the NFL, in their house last week, and they're looking to continue that on the road versus Arizona. The Cardinals, on the other hand, have lost 2 straight. They lost to the Rams without a lot of their key pieces, and they lost to the Detroit Lions in kind of embarrassing fashion. And I could understand a lot of you saying, well, that just means the Cardinals are ready. They're motivated to get back on track. Personally, I look at the Colts as a team that are pretty consistent. They don't lose a lot of their energy. They kind of stay even. They don't get too high. They don't get too low. That's something I like about the Colts. They're a very consistent football team. I don't expect them to come out here with a lack of energy, especially on a Christmas game, on a spotlight game, on a primetime game, where they have an opportunity to continue their run and continue to make their way to the playoffs, because every game for the Colts matters. On the other hand, the Cardinals, yes, they want to win the NFC West, but they're pretty much a lock to get into the playoffs due to the 49ers losing on Thursday night to the Tennessee Titans. When you look at the matchups within this game, there is a couple weaknesses that I feel the Colts can exploit. One being the run defense of the Cardinals, which has been one of the unreliable ones really since losing J.J. Watt. On top of that, they will be without Jordan Phillips, one of their other interior defensive linemen and one of their bigger pieces to that D-line. I don't like the way the smaller Cardinals front seven matches up with a big, powerful rushing attack of the Indianapolis Colts. And even with the Colts losing a couple linemen to the COVID business, I do feel like the Colts will be able to establish the run, our favorite term, run the ball down the throat of the Cardinals, and keep Carson Wentz in manageable situations where they can leverage the passing attack how they like it. On top of that, the Cardinals are not a team that have great cornerbacks. They're not a team that can simply load the box and play man-to-man on the outside. And they're simply not going to be a defense like New England was, where they could limit Carson Wentz to 50 yards passing or whatever that madness was. So Carson Wentz is going to have success throwing the ball down the field versus these weaker cornerbacks. Michael Pittman will be back. He won't be booted out of this game. And I believe the play action to open up those big shots down the field will be available for this Indianapolis offense in a way that they weren't available versus New England. So overall, I like the complete offense of the Colts to move the ball whichever way they please versus an Arizona defense who lately has been pushed around by the Detroit Lions, been aired out by Matthew Stafford. I think the Colts will score 30 in this game. On the flip side, I look at the Cardinals offense, and they're not playing with the same efficiency. Kyler Murray is being asked to do too much. Kyler Murray's having to put this whole team on his back. Kyler Murray is having to play backyard football too often. And when you play an Indianapolis Colts defense that is well-schooled, that plays a lot of cover 2 defense, that plays a lot of zone defense, what that means is, okay, cover 2 shell. We're not going to give up the big plays down the field. That, from Kyler's perspective, is going to be taken away. Kyler's going to have to be patient in this game and dink and dunk without his number one option in DeAndre Hopkins, the lone mismatch option of this receiving game. And a secondary in Indianapolis who's missing Rock Ya-Sin. Okay, that's not going to be as big of a factor because now we're not really worried. Rondell Moore is probably unavailable for this game. Rodney Hudson could be back for the offensive line of the Cardinals, but could also still be out, on top of James Conner, who hasn't practiced all week. So there's a multitude of injuries kind of on both sides of the field, but I look at the Cardinals being a team without D-Hop, being an offense struggling at the moment that can't really get out of their own way. I feel like the Colts defense, who takes the ball away, who's fast, who can rally to the football, who can strip the football from you, and all the ball carriers, whether that's Kyler, James Conner, Chase Edmonds, whoever it may be, on top of getting a 4-man rush who's athletic, who can contain the pocket, who can force Kyler to stay in the pocket and make those throws underneath. I feel the Colts are really well equipped to handle what the Cardinals throw at them from a horizontal perspective because of their speed at linebacker and because of their athleticism up front to contain Kyler Murray and that cover 2 shell to take away the deep bombs. So I really like the Colts defense to handle their business on top of the Colts offense to establish their tone and their pace of play, and that's why I think the Colts come out with the victory on Christmas Day. My second best bet, let's move to Sunday with our first bet on Sunday. That is the Los Angeles Chargers minus 10.5 over the dreadful Houston Texans. And let me tell you, the Texans are dreadful, but not only that, they're missing a lot of players in this game. And I get it, the Texans are kind of one of those teams who they lose players, their backup's just as good as their starter. It's kind of a weird vibe from this roster overall. And the Chargers are also missing some players, Corey Linsley, Joey Bosa, Jalen Guyton, Austin Eckler. There are some key pieces that they are missing, but who they are not missing so far is Justin Herbert. And that guy's pretty important. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He has Mike Williams. He has Keenan Allen. He still has a solid enough defense and an advantage with the coaching staff. I feel the Chargers are a must bet this Sunday. I look at this matchup. I like the way the Chargers are playing. I think with the 10-day rest and the 10-day ability to prepare for the Texans and kind of get out all the kinks that happened in that Chiefs game, I think that the Chargers are going to come out and just lay a beating on the Houston Texans. I really like the way the Chargers have opened up their offense. I like the way that they're staying balanced, but also attacking aggressively down the field. And we've seen Justin Herbert have the ability to take what is there when he's facing defenses who will take away the deep shots. I think Herbert is going to have his way with this Texans defense, especially considering all of the players that they are missing, whether in the pass rush or in the secondary. So I like the Chargers to put up a ton of points. It's really not too complicated here. He's got good weapons. It's a offense that's playing like one of the best in football. It's one that was going up and down the field against a pretty good defense in the Chiefs. And I expect them to do that in this game versus one of the worst teams in football. Now, on the flip side, can Davis Mills match it? And I look at it from a simplistic perspective. The Chargers are not a great run defense, but the Texans are not a great run offense. On top of David Johnson potentially missing this game, they're not in great shape from a running back perspective. and a running game perspective to control this game and to potentially run and keep Herbert off the field to cover this spread. Davis Mills has been playing better, but he'll be without his go-to third down option in Brandon Cooks, who will be out of this game. So Brandon Cooks is the only legitimate guy that you've got to worry about on this offense. The running game is missing some options, and overall they just don't have enough talent or a good enough quarterback to put up enough points to cover the 10. Let's say the Chargers get to 30. Do we really think the Texans are going to get to 20 points? I just can't see it here. The Chargers are rolling. I think they're playing very good football, and I think they want to get back in the win column before the playoffs. So I think they win here, and I think they win handily. Take the Chargers. My third best bet for Week 16 is the Denver Broncos in a pick'em over the Las Vegas Raiders. I live streamed the Raiders game versus the Cleveland Browns, and if you guys don't check out my live streams, I suggest you do every single week. But besides that, we have a game here where I think people are not paying attention to the Raiders right now and are not paying attention to the Broncos right now. The Broncos played a very tight game versus the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that I respect, a team that I think is a playoff team. And the Broncos very well could have won that game if Teddy Bridgewater stayed in the game or if Drew Lock didn't make the crucial mistake. And I understand Drew Lock's playing this game versus the Raiders. But let's talk about the other side of the story. The Raiders are not the Bengals, guys. The Raiders are bad. They are bad, okay? They played a Browns team who's missing numerous options, quarterbacks, tight ends, wide receivers, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, cornerbacks, coaches. Every single position was decimated in that game. And the Browns nearly pull it off with Nick Mullins. Are you kidding me? So the Raiders were mostly healthy. The Cleveland Browns were not. These are third stringers playing. They almost lost a crucial game that they had to win. You know why? Because the Raiders are bad. The Raiders are bad. And don't get it twisted. I like Derek Carr. I think he's good. But there is nowhere to go with the football right now. The offensive line can't protect. They can't run the ball at all. And a few things are happening here for the Raiders. They have lost their play caller. Obviously, on top of that, their head coach. They lost their field stretcher and their big play guy in Henry Ruggs. This offense is not the same. Darren Waller's hurt. He's the guy you gotta double team. Now everyone's focused on Hunter Renfrow, and that's the only option this offense has that's above average. They can't run it. They can't protect. Derek Carr's in trouble, and now he's playing one of the best defenses in football with one of the most creative coordinators and best defensive coordinators in football in Vic Fangio. This is a defensive secondary that locks the passing game down, and you have no threat of the running game from the Raiders. How are they going to score in this game? You flip it to the other side. I have respect for the Raiders and how they play defense and how hard they play. But Drew Lock, as long as he doesn't throw multiple interceptions in this game, even if he throws one, even if he has 2 turnovers, I think the Broncos have a chance to win this game. They can run the ball. They can establish pace of play. They can kind of protect Drew Lock from that perspective. And Drew Lock can get the ball and make big plays down the field to guys like Jerry Jeudy, who's going to be facing no Nate Hobbs this week because he's on the COVID list, on top of Noah Fant, who usually plays better with Drew Lock at quarterback. So I feel those 2 options in the passing game are going to go off. I think Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon are going to have success on the ground. And I think the Broncos will do enough to win this game through a great effort of their defense and a good enough effort from their offense. They are the better, more complete team right now. They're playing better football right now, and that is why I'm taking them. I'm a little bit confused as to why this is a pick'em because I don't see Bridgewater and Locke as a massive difference here. My fourth best bet is the New England Patriots -2 over the Buffalo Bills at Gillette Stadium. So last time we saw this game, a lot of people are saying we can take nothing away from that football game. It was so windy. It was so windy. Here's what we can take away from that game. The Patriots won. Check. The Patriots won without passing the ball. Check. The Patriots, when they needed to, shut down Josh Allen in the passing game. Check. On top of that, the Patriots ran the ball successfully with 10 men regularly in the box. This game's going to be a bit different. Winds are still going to have an impact according to the weather report, but not the same dramatic fashion that it was in Buffalo. This game is not in Buffalo. It's in New England. entirely different environment. It's not on Monday night in a primetime setting where the home team is going to be totally up to fight. This is in New England at this time of the year. That favors New England, in my opinion. The Bills are going to be without two of their receiving options. Cole Beasley, their consistent underneath check down guy that Allen relies on to move the chains and to gain those 4 to 5 yards on early downs. Gabriel Davis, a big field stretcher and go up and get it type of receiver who's been actually very good recently for the Bills. So really, we look at this matchup and we say New England can run the ball. They have the physical mismatch on the Bills in this game. They're going to run for 4 yards a carry. There might be no Star Lotulelei, which would be an absolutely massive loss. He's a big guy in the middle of that defense. You take that size away from the Bills, instantly they're way too small to defend this rushing attack. Now, Ramondre Stevenson is out, but Damian Harris should be back on top of Brandon Bolden. The Patriots should be able to run the ball fairly successfully the same way they did. What's scary for the Bills here is that this game won't have the same amount of wins, which means Belichick won't be as reluctant in really passing the ball with Mac Jones. He'll be able to pass the ball and air it out enough and threaten enough where that running game is even more efficient, because you can't just put 10 men in the box when you're playing the Patriots with an actual competent quarterback and receiving core who can pass the ball now, right? It doesn't make sense. The Patriots, on top of that, had a game plan that was ready for Monday night that they never got to use in the passing game. They can now check it, go over it, check it twice like Santa Claus, and make sure everything is dotted the I's and crossed the T's and everything's good to go, on top of adding maybe a layer or two that they saw from Tom Brady and the Bucs. So the Patriots passing game should be even more crafty and even more ready for this game. On top of no Tre'Davious White, who is usually a thorn in the side for New England to not pass to one side of the field. So I think New England will maintain steady balance, a lot of play action, a few screens here and there, and they're just the team that is way better in this environment. Whether it's windy, it's cold, it's snowing, whatever it is, they're way better in this environment. On top of, they have the physical mismatches. They are a bad matchup for Buffalo, and people continuously ignore this. They're a bad matchup. They can cover Buffalo. They can pass rush. They can get after Josh Allen. There might be no Cordy Ford. There might be no Deion Dawkins. That's more trouble for Josh Allen. The Patriots pass rush dominated that game last time they played. So I think New England is just a terrible matchup here. Plus, they're at home. This is an essential game to win the AFC East, and I think New England comes through. I get it. A lot of people still want to believe in Buffalo. I get it that you want to take the dog. This is just not a good matchup in football, period. So I'm going to take New England. I'm going to take Bill Belichick once again, and I think Mac Jones is more involved in this victory. Give me New England -2 at home. My fifth best bet for Week 16, I like the Rams in this game, and there's a few reasons why. I like Sean McVay versus Mike Zimmer. Go back, look at the history. He shreds even good Vikings defenses. He's shredded them. He's shredded their match coverages. He's been able to isolate Cooper Kupp down the field, Robert Woods in the past down the field. That could be Odell or Van Jefferson this time. Matthew Stafford's going to be able to take full advantage of those mismatches down the field versus this defense with a terrible cornerback group who's having to cover some good receivers. That's a pure mismatch on the outside. I could see Stafford throwing for upwards of 350 yards in this game. I could see a little bit of balance from the Rams' perspective because the Vikings haven't been very good at defending the run, so they're just in a bind to protect themselves versus the deep pass and the run on top of it, on top of Sony Michel playing pretty good football right now. So the Rams should be able to consistently move the ball in whichever way they want to go. Pass, run, whichever way. They're scoring 30 plus. There's no doubt about it in my mind. In this environment, in a dome, it's perfect setting for the Rams. I get it. It's in Minnesota. It's a tough place to play, but it's perfect environment for passing day. It's perfect environment for offense. It's perfect environment for Sean McVay. On the flip side, the Vikings do have an offense who could maybe attack the Rams' weaknesses. The run defense of the Rams is a little bit lackluster, but it's been better than the Vikings' run defense, and I feel like in recent weeks, they've been a little bit more competitive in that regard. And then you look at Jalen Ramsey covering Justin Jefferson. That won't quite be the mismatch that Jefferson's been to other cornerbacks. He's still going to get his. but it's not going to be such a mismatch that he's just going to get open on every play. Adam Thielen's questionable. Even if he plays, he's going to be beat up. I don't think the Vikings have enough in the passing game to keep up with Stafford and the Rams in the passing game. And yes, the Vikings can run the ball a little bit, but there's going to be a time where the Rams stuff them, force them into third down, and that's where the real weakness of the Vikings will lie, which is a terrible offensive line, specifically in pass protection, protecting against Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, and company. I think the Rams make more plays with their pass rush than the Vikings do. I think the Rams are playing better football, and I think the Rams are the more complete, explosive team. So I'm going to take the Rams to win and to cover, and because I believe that this game's going to be a little bit higher scoring, I think that it's much easier in my mind to lay 3 than in other lower scoring affairs. So give me the Rams. My 6th best bet of the week is the Chicago Bears plus 6.5 versus the Seattle Seahawks. This one is going to be very simple, guys. I think the Seattle Seahawks are getting way too much credit for apparently no reason at all. I don't understand why the Seahawks are favored by 6.5 versus most teams in the NFL. And the Bears are not like one of the absolute worst teams in football. They're actually fairly talented. They put up a fight. They've got a strong front seven. They've got a quarterback who can make some plays. They've got a couple receivers and playmakers, running backs, wide receivers who can make some plays. And I understand Matt Nagy is a disaster, but so is Pete Carroll. Like, this is one of the few matchups at head coach where Matt Nagy isn't completely dismantled and isn't a complete joke. So in this game, every single way I see this game going is a absolute slugfest, low-scoring affair. Every single time you think about the Bears and the Seahawks, what type of game you think of? You think of 17-13. That's what you think of. 6.5 points in this type of ball game is way too many points. And I think it's really going to come down to whoever wins, either side, whichever quarterback can make 1 or 2 more plays. And honestly, yeah, you probably lean towards the Seahawks. But like, the Bears defense is playing solid. I thought they played really good overall versus the Vikings, who are a better offense than the Seahawks, and they try to do similar things, right? They force feed 2 receivers. They run the ball on early downs a lot. I think the Bears are going to be able to get a bit of a pass rush on Russell Wilson. I think overall, the Bears are going to be able to probably do a little bit better in the red zone than they did versus the Vikings, which was dreadful. Like, that's just unrepeatable. So I think the Bears are a team, yes, undisciplined, yes, not my favorite, but getting 6.5 points versus a Seahawks team who can't really score, and their defense gives up a lot of time of possession. They allow you to move the ball. It's just too many points. I don't get it. So give me the Bears. And my 7th best bet, aka the Christmas present best bet, is the Washington football team plus 10 or 10.5 in this football game. Preferably jump on this before it lowers, because I feel like it might dip down within 9.5, 9 points, and the 10 and 10.5 is much more valuable. But I like Washington, and there's a couple fundamental reasons. Washington played Dallas the first time, and yes, Dallas kind of got out to a lead, but Washington was able to surge back into that game and make it entertaining at the end and make it a 1-score game. This is 10 points you're getting. Secondly, this is the second matchup that a divisional game is being played. And every single time, that game is typically a lot closer. It is usually typically a lot closer because these two teams have seen each other. They know their go-to plays. They know their go-to schemes, and they can study for that. They can plan for that, exactly what you're going to attack them with. So that is a big deal. On top of that, you have a Washington team who's getting a lot healthier. A lot of players are coming off the COVID list from that Eagles game. A lot of people are overreacting to that game for no reason because Washington was without like half their roster. They're getting their quarterback back, Tyler Heineken. I love the guy. He's going to be out there balling. And Dallas's offense, I don't think is as good as the market suggested is by this 10 points. I think they haven't been playing very well. The passing game hasn't been as good. It hasn't been as explosive. The running game has been a little bit less consistent. I think Washington is big up front. They're good on both lines of scrimmage. They're not going to be bullied in this game, and that inherently makes it a close divisional matchup. Washington is also still fighting. So I think Washington has no reason to lay themselves off the gas pedal here. So I think Washington is going to make this one competitive and interesting. And Dallas just hasn't done enough offensively to make me believe they're going to absolutely blow Washington out of the water. So give me Washington plus the 10 here. I think this is a smart play and a smart value play for Sunday. There you guys go. Those are my spread picks for Week 16. If you guys are wondering, the teaser of the week will now be on my parlay plays, so check that video out. Also, check out my favorite over-unders. It's Mitch. Good luck this Christmas. Peace.